Hello, everyone. Hello and welcome. My name is Emma, and I am the operations manager here at East City Bookshop. It is wonderful to be with you all today. Thank you so much for being here in person and for tuning in online, if that is how you are watching. Let's do a quick poll. Raise your hand if this is your first time at East City Bookshop. Okay, we've got a few newcomers, but a lot of people who have been here before. Great. If it is your first time here, then you should know that we have a lot of events like this. And we also have 14 different book clubs. So you can learn more about all of that on our website, eastcitybookshop.com. Feel free to grab a bookmark with our upcoming events or just a regular bookmark with our website on it, either at the cash register or from the event shelf over here. So first up, some housekeeping. Number one, if you need a restroom, it is upstairs past the cash registers and greeting cards. Number two, if you are watching from home and experiencing any technical difficulties, please let us know in the chat. My colleague is monitoring that to help if necessary. Number three, we will have some time for questions, both in person and via Zoom. So if you're watching via Zoom, you can participate. Please make sure to put those questions in the Q&A feature so that we will see them and be able to ask them on your behalf. And finally, and most importantly, if you need to purchase a copy of the book, we have plenty of copies available, and we'd be glad to help you out with that. All of our copies are upstairs at the register and can be purchased prior to the signing line if you haven't grabbed one already. Our events program is made possible by your book purchases, so we would really appreciate if you could support us and our authors tonight by picking up a copy of tonight's book. And without further ado, like many of you, I was very excited to learn that Sarah Rees Brennan was making her adult fantasy debut, and let me tell you, Long Live Evil is everything I could have hoped for. This adult epic fantasy puts the reader in the villain's shoes for an adventure that is both brilliant and supremely satisfying. Expect a rogues gallery of villains, including an axe-wielding maid, a shining knight with dark moods, a homicidal bodyguard, and a playboy spymaster with a golden heart and a filthy reputation. So our authors tonight, Sarah Rees Brennan, was born in Ireland by the Sea and is the New York Times bestselling, Carnegie-nominated, and World Fantasy Award shortlisted writer of many novels. After living in New York, London, and Melbourne, she came home with late-stage cancer, and after beating cancer, settled by a centuries-old library. Long Live Evil is her first adult novel. Alix E. Harrow is the New York Times bestselling author of The 10,000 Doors of January, The Once and Future Witches, Starling House, and various short fiction, including a duology of retold fairy tales, A Spindle Splintered, and A Mirror Mended. She's from Kentucky, but now lives in Charlottesville, Virginia, with her husband and two semi-feral kids. And now please welcome this evening's authors.
Hello, testing. Hello, Washington, D.C. I am so excited to be here. It's my first time, and I was wandering around going, wow, this is just like Captain America, the Winter Soldier, because I'm a cultured lady. Thank you so much for coming. I love you all. I really thought that I was like, no, it's fine. I'm going to try to do a little tour, but no one will come. I'll just arrive at the bookshop and be like, thank you so much for trying, guys. This is so beautiful of you. I am, however, under a curse. So I was meant to show up in a beautiful evil ensemble for you all, as you deserve, but they lost my suitcase. I don't know where it is. All of my snake rings. Somebody is enjoying them. I am simply here in my florals, but I'm very delighted to be here. And I'm also very delighted that these boots I wore because they were too difficult to pack. And I am even more delighted to be in conversation with Alix Harrow because I am such a huge fan of her work. And now we are going to talk about books and imagination together. And I did want to say, get your questions ready because the person who asked the first question, I'm going to give out a copy of Long Live Evil and a copy of Starling House too.
You are wearing an evil ensemble. Did you see the jacket as she came in? Turn around. Yeah. I don't think thematic outfits get any more thematic than that.
I do wear it because I find to be lucky. My German publisher sent it to me, and I had an uncharitable thought when the box came. So they were like, "Could you sign some stickers?" And I was like, "God, this box is huge! why are they sending so many stickers? What's wrong with these people? I have to watch so many K-dramas to get through this. And then I opened it and I was like, oh, it's a beautiful gift. I'm a terrible person. But I'm comfortable with that. And now you remind me, now I've shown off my jacket, I'm taking it off. I'm quite warm.
So I want to start by talking about craft stuff because I think, although I cried and laughed many, many, many times in this book, I think the thing that I ended up most incoherently talking to my friends about was this craft level of it and the structure in particular. So tell me first what the writing process was like for this book, like where it started and how it went.
Oh, well, thank you very much. And perhaps afterwards you can tell me how craft should be done because good Lord, no one should do it the way I do. Are there some aspiring writers in the crowd? I thought so. I saw it in some faces. Please don't do it anything like I do it. You see, I always have to kind of trick myself. So I was like, I'm going to write a horror and a rom-com and that'll cover all my bases. And that's my scheme for the year for trying to like get back on track writing wise. And everyone's like, that sounds like a really good plan, Sarah. And I was like, doodly, doodly, doodly. And then 2 weeks passed and they were like, how's the horror and the rom-com? And I was like, well, I made up a musical. And they're like, what? Why would you do that? Are you writing a musical? I was like, no, not at all. You're like, what are you doing then? I was like, well, it's for the book. They're like, so you're writing a book that you think might be turned into a musical. And I was like, oh, no, 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 no. You see, and I was thinking, what if a book was very successful and so successful that someone made a musical of it? And they were like, and you thought you could write that book? And I was like, no, 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 no. And then somebody really loved it and they went into it and they wrecked it. And they were like, so wouldn't you have to then plot like 3 books? And I was like, yes. And they were like, well, okay, it's ambitious, but that's what you want to do. Absolutely. And I'm like, oh, I'm not going to do that. No, 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 no. No, I'm having fun playing with like the idea of doing that. But of course I won't because, I would be all about it in my wits. No one's going to publish that. And so my friends then later were like, and how's the book you're not writing? And I was like, it's pretty good. It's a few 100,000 words. Yeah. But I do think that writing what you love obviously is important, but also sometimes people are like, well, believe in yourself and you can achieve anything. No, it's sometimes really hard to believe in yourself. It's so difficult. Like, I don't want anyone to wake up and think, I don't believe in myself and that means I can't achieve it. Because I didn't believe in myself for 1 second along the way. I was like, this must be a joke at all levels. But I was like, I love this book. We were chatting about how we loved Arthurian myths. And so I was like, I wanted to write a book that I wanted to celebrate my love for epic fantasy, but I also did want to have a modern twist in it. So I was like, okay, a fish out of water, she goes in. But also I wanted to write ensemble team because I love those things. So I just thought of everything I love. And I was like, if someone had been like, can you achieve all those layers in one story? I was like, no, of course I can't.
Well, I think that's it though. It's not believe in yourself. It's like believe in the work and what you love,
Thanks.
right? And if you follow those things that you love,
Yeah.
you get something absolutely delightful.
I thank you. But how do you like start with
No,
no,
incorrect.
yes.
This is my interview.
Oh my God. Trapped.
No, but I am curious, have you always sort of tricked yourself backwards into your books, or did this come about very differently than the other ones?
It came about much like in Other Lands, actually, in which I was like, I'm writing a little short story in my blog. And then my friend Holly Black was like, hey, I've just put your book into a Word document. I was like, 1, what book? 2, why would you put in a Word document? I didn't want to hear that answer. Like, I was just writing a little short story on my book. And she's like, well, it's book length and you should publish it. And I was like, no, I won't be doing any such things. Stop
And she
upsetting me.
did. And it's fantastic.
But yes, I have always had to trick myself in that before I was ever published, I just wrote a book a year. And then, you'd write one and you'd be like, well, that's the book. I meant to write it. And then I would just put it in a drawer and forget about it. And one day I was like, maybe an agent. And so from then I was like, sure, I write books. That's all fine. But then when I started to get sick, like I was like, well, it's not possible anymore, but I still wanted to do it. And I do think that art is about tricking yourself into believing the impossible at every level.
I find that these are 2 separate questions. That's how this book was written. How was it published? How did it get on the shelves?
That is a different question. Well, as you said, as I was saying, believe in nothing. So I was writing and I was like, here's my throw. I hope this is a fun time. And I gave it to my critique partners. And she was like, not even like, let's make a scheme to be published. She was just like, I'm gonna show it to some more people. And I was like, okay, great. And then they gave me feedback and I was like, more and more people had read it. And then we're like, but what are you gonna do next? And I was like, nothing. And they're like, perhaps you could give it to your agent and she could send it out to some people. I'm like, no. And then eventually I did. And then waited for months, because also one thing that I want to say to the aspiring writers in the group is that you think about publishing as an end goal. You're like, and then you're published and everything is great. It's not usually how it goes. Like, in between my career and getting cancer, I was like, had a hiatus for some years. And someone in a publishing house was overheard by a friend of me, like, Sarah Rees Brennan, she's done. And I was like, I mean, that sucked to hear, but also, as it turns out, not true. So again, it's like not even the little voice in your head that says you can't do it, don't believe in yourself, but the out loud voices that people will say to you, where you're like, don't believe in them either. They're right. They're just saying stuff.
That's true. Publishing exposes you to many more voices.
Many more.
And if you thought your own internal voices were unkind, that's because you don't know about Goodreads yet.
Don't read the 2-star reviews. They just didn't like your thing. A lot of
1 stars. Those are good. Those are fun. I think those are valid and it's fine. And you're not canceled if you read those.
Fair. I have actually read many a 3-star review. I found extremely helpful.
No.
Oh yeah.
What?
Oh, I read one
They
that was just like 3 stars.
in them, and
It
I'm
wasn't
not
our
there
best.
for that.
And I was like, it wasn't my best. Thank you for holding me to a higher standard.
Actually, my very favorite review ever is a 1 star, and it's for the 10,000 Doors of January. And the review just reads, there were only like 5 doors.
Oh my God.
Which is true.
As a writer, I can't do math, so I never realized that until this moment. The 10,000 Doors of January was one of the Portal fantasies that I read that was like, oh, people are doing really fun stuff with Portal fantasy now. I would like to do that as well. Like Shannon McGuire's Wayward Children, the 10,000 Doors of January opened a door in my head. And it was also very much about books as portals. So in fact, I would say there's 10,000 doors because the books pounce.
I'm gonna go look that person up and reply.
There's also like a Marvel review blog that's based entirely on the amount of trains in the movies. So Thor 2 is the only one with 5 stars, because they're like, well, not only is there a train in this, but Thor was on the train. Today I read a review being like, I like Living with Evil, but this blog is called I Dream of Dragons, and were there dragons? Like,
see, they know their purpose. They have a very clear outlook, and they're there to tell you whether or not there's dragons, and I appreciate that.
Counting trains, some people are counting doors, some people are counting dragons. It's a beautiful world out there.
Okay, all right. But so one of the things craft-wise that I admire the most is the kind of tonal tricks this plays, because it is very, very, very funny consistently throughout. It also opens with cancer and gets considerably darker plot-wise throughout. How did you put those two things together? Like, how did you balance the tone?
I think I started out because, like, I had cancer. And one of the things that really got me through was reading stories. And I did not like most of the stories I was reading with cancer. They felt like torture porn, and not even like fun torture porn.
And it wasn't even hot.
Or interesting thematically. And of course, preferably both. But they were just like, oh, this is so sad. Look at these people and they're patiently suffering. And like, there's the book What Katie Did, which is not about cancer, but it does feature Cousin Helen, literally the most annoying invalid in all of literature. And which is like, oh, Katie, you just need to stop complaining for the rest of your life and run the household from your sick bed. And you're like, Helen, shut up. Because if you're only ever going to feel pity or sympathy for perfect victims, then you're never going to feel any sympathy for any of them. All victims have been villains at some point in their lives, just like vice versa. And that was something that I wanted to get into, the lack of sympathy that we feel for people who are in terrible circumstances. Is I had a lot of support and I still lost about half the people in my life when I got ill. And also, like, when the bad thing happens to you, you need to be more selfish with your resources. And sometimes you just say the out loud thing, the thing you think in the middle of the night and you're like, oh, that's so mean, but kind of funny, but I wouldn't say it. But then you say it. And some people are like, well, you're just terrible now. So maybe you deserve everything you get. And that's just not true. But also it's like, deserves by what metric? Who's telling this story? Can we be comfortable with being villains in someone else's story? Can we take the story to ourselves? They're all questions there to think about. But I was also like, boy, I would like to be having a lot more fun with these stories that I'm reading. And I ended up reading
What if there was a funny cancer book?
But also I remember sitting and watching Deadpool with my brother. And it was while I was like, sitting in my little wig on, and like it was striped like a bee because I love bees. And once in the chemo ward, a lady was like, where do you get your hair done? I was like, thank you so much. And she's like, oh God, no, are you a patient? And I was like, thank you so much. Also at another time, a lady, they tried to, put in my vein, and it didn't quite go so well. So I like jumped up, snatched off my wig and was like, oh, water, I need water. And the lady next to me who was going for her first time was like, I didn't realize you lost your hair that quickly. And I just burst out laughing. And like one of my doctor friends only ever watches Scrubs because she's like, those are the jokes we tell. The other things are true. I don't think anything's true without jokes. I was like, I would like to have some fun with something. I would like to write a story that's a lasagna. Cheese on top. Have a great time on top. And then there's the layers there waiting for them if you want them.
Well, it worked really, really well. And actually, I think is tonally more similar to In Other Lands than I had maybe expected. Like, this is much later and it's adult and not YA. Where did you develop that, like, I guess voice? I don't know, but like that very particular sense of humor and way of telling stories?
I think you tell other people's jokes until you learn to tell your own. I started out reading books like Terry Pratchett, Diana Wynne Jones. And so I was always like, fantasy can be funny. But also, I think a lot of people are funny and don't know it. I think you're very funny in your
I know it.
I wasn't sure. Because sometimes when people are literary fans, they're like, no. And I'm like, come on, there was some wryness there. Opal in Starling House is one of the most wryly funny characters that I have read in a long time. And like different types of humor are like seen in different ways. Sometimes people can like read and past humor as if it's invisible, but I've always been someone who you cannot really read past. So I had to kind of lean in, and people were just like, she won't stop making jokes. In fact, that was the response of a French publisher. They're like, we cannot publish this. This woman cannot stop making jokes. Jokes are so hard to translate. I then later another French publisher did, and I was like, can I have the translator's email address? And then I started out with like, so sorry about all the jokes. We can discuss what I meant. But that's because translation itself is an art.
Yeah. You already kind of touched on this because you talked about how it was like writing 3 books structurally, because we have a popular fantasy series, epic fantasy series, and a girl who is a fan of it, but not enough to totally know all the plot points. And then she goes into that story and participates as one of the characters. And so functionally what you're having to do is tell us this epic fantasy story that we do not know.
Yes.
And change it in significant ways, because the protagonist is making these changes. And we have to then, as the readers, feel that those changes matter to a story we've never heard before. How did you do that? And also why? That's all.
Why would anybody do that, guys? You yourself in Starling House had a writer who wrote an imaginary book that Opal feels some kind of way about.
It was a picture book.
I was very involved in the Underland. And I was like, we're both doing this together. I will not be questioned as to why I have done this thing that you have also done. J'accuse. I mean, I think we also, when we're talking about an imaginary book, we're talking about all the books that we have ever loved condensed into one thing. So my feelings about T.H. Wright's The Sword and the Stone, about The Lord of the Rings, about A Song of Ice and Fire, but also about Wicked. And in fact, there is another character in the books. I will not say which one, but who has come in from our world. And so, in fact, the book that they read is different from the book that she's read because you cannot change the story without being in it. So I had to plot so many versions of
Right.
this
I
book.
forgot about his version of the
Yep.
book also.
It's infinite mirrors. It's novels all the way down.
But what works so well is that by making it both a good series that she genuinely likes, but also a pretty tropey one that's like relying on things that are very, very familiar, then you do, even though you don't know this specific epic fantasy because you've made it up, you kind of know you're like, oh, okay, the perfect virginal princess who is the one true love. Got it. I know who she is. I know roughly what her arc is going to be. And so the way that you play with like what we do already know is really effective.
Thank you. Well, they often say play to your strengths, but sometimes I play to my weaknesses. In that, my friend C.S. Pacat, who is a great writer, if you have, I recommend very highly, was talking about the perfect form of a trope, and I was chatting about it, and I was like, "Yes, I'd like to do the perfect form of a trope," and he was like, "No, you wouldn't. Like, you're constantly picking them up and just shaking them like they're your snow globes." And I was like, "That's true," but I like the idea of the perfect trope. What if there were perfect tropes and then I came and ruined them? And they were like, no, you have to write to the perfect tropes. I'm like, what if I didn't? What if I didn't have to do that? But tell me, did you make it a picture book because you wouldn't have to do all the stuff that
I mean, a little bit. At one point in an early draft, it was like a whole Gothic novel, and I was like, no, why? I don't want that.
I have to just say that I had already got the first draft when I was sitting and talking to a friend about it. And one, she was like, sure, it's the guy. And I was like, what? Oh, no, I have to read a whole subgenre very quickly. Excuse me, one minute. And she was also like, so if there's someone else from the book, there's another version of the book. And I was like,
You're like,
yes.
yes.
Like I knew stuff had changed. I was like, oh, yes, because stuff changed. So there's a whole other, yes. Oh my God. um
There's also, in addition to this insane structure, a pretty big cast. Like I have a very small cast, so I'm very easily impressed. I have to say that. But there's also, so there's like a large cast and at least 3 significant romantic arcs. Did you know those going in? How much of a planner are you?
Oh, I love to plan. I love to make a wonderful, beautiful plan, and then about halfway through it craters and falls into the sea. Also, I will add, and people have already called me out for this, the characters have titles as well as names.
Yes, they do.
So people are like, oh, it's the Last Hope, it's the Golden Cobra. And then we also use their names. And I had to do that for a purpose of trickery. But it was like, oh, great. So you've already got a big cast and you're trying to make us remember 2 names for each of them at least. Why are you doing this? But I do love the intimate portrayals of your book. But the fact that there is a shadow book behind mine means that I can do a little bit of like trickery work there. You're like, well, he's very tormented by his backstory. Says the I don't want a protagonist rather than heroine. And then people are like, oh, well, great. Can't wait for the backstory then. You can cue them up in certain ways. You can use shorthand. But it did mean that, oh my God, was my first chapter front loaded. They are having a discussion about a convention they went to for a series of books that don't exist. And talking about their costumes. So then the next chapter, she could be like, I was wearing the costume. And I was like, oh, the costume. But that's presuming that they come with me past page 2.
So obviously, thematically, we have a portal situation. I've only read 2 books of yours, and both of them feature these very smart and sarcastic 21st century people getting sucked into magical worlds. What is it about that particular mechanic that appeals?
I will say in my defense, and my other books were not portal fantasies. It was just, but it's something that I have always loved, the idea of the portal fantasy. I read the Narnia books and really imprinted. And one thing I really imprinted on was The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, in which they both, in all the other books, they go into a magic wardrobe. They go to the world between the worlds. But in that, they just go into a painting. And the reason it works is because it's beautiful. And that seemed really true to me, that art is beautiful. When art is beautiful, you can access the other world through it, that's all it needs to be. And also Eustace was making fine points, and the Narnians were not listening about the Geneva Convention. So everyone will be like, oh, the voice of the Dawn Treader, God, Eustace, he has a huge pill. And I'd be like, no. No, and I will write a whole book about
His
it.
name is Elliot.
And also, don't turn people into dragons. What kind of punitive system is that? That just makes me think of the inspiration of annoyance. Has anything annoyed you so much that you have then written about it?
I mean, in some ways, yeah, I think most of my book starts as like a grievance.
Yeah.
In some ways, out of love. Like there's something that you love very, very much. And there's something that is slowly over the process of years driven you insane. And I think that is where novels come from, actually.
Like, here's my points about fictional amnesia. And everyone's like, we didn't.
An argument no one was asking for, and yet they're ready to get it. So, but since I've also done some portal fantasy type things, I often get kind of asked about escapism. And I do see that like both of these characters, Elliot in the one and Ray in this one, are running, like they're in bad circumstances. Reality has not done them well. But I would not describe either of these books as escapist in the sense of it being like a cozy reprieve from harsh reality. How do you define like escape versus escapism?
Oh, that's a very interesting differentiation. I don't know that until you brought up that I had thought about it, because it always seemed clear to me that the escape is an opportunity rather than an escape. And you're like, my circumstances are terrible, so anything feels like an escape. But like, we're not reading stories for good things to happen to people. Like, even the coziest of fantasy, there's some skullduggery going on. That. So it was just like, what feels like an escape to someone, what feels joyful to someone, what the idea of sense of wonder is always with me with fantasy. Or like in the Gothic Starling House. She both fears and is drawn to the house. And I think everything we really love, we have both desired and feared. So we like the opportunity to go into Game of Thrones. I'd be like, there's a dragon. Oh no. Oh no. I made a mistake. But they really would be able to be like, I'm beyond taxes. Show me the dragon.
You also do, I mean, you talked about this. Clearly, what you do is you shake the tropes up like snow globes. But I also feel like built into the portal fantasy in particular, there's a lot of like really deeply, I'm going to say the word problematic, but I don't mean it in the Twitter 2014 sense. I mean, genuinely, conceptually has some problems to it. Ideas with the portal fantasy, like it emerged in Imperial England, right? For reasons.
Reasons.
And you see in both of these books are very, very aware of kind of the uglier sides of the genres and engage with them. So how do you like, I guess, lovingly subvert something?
Have you read a series of books called The Chronicles of Thomas Covenant? Maybe don't. Like, I really love them, but it is about someone going into a story and then he's immediately like, well, these people aren't real, and what's the first thing I'm gonna do? Not great. It's not great. It's what the first thing he's gonna do is like, well, I wouldn't have done that. Okay. But it was my first portal fantasy, unless you count the Narnian books, which I didn't have a concept for portal fantasy at the time. And I was like, oh, okay, well, what would you do about people you don't think are real? And then you're like, but people all the time are thinking people is not real. People are like, oh, there's a reason this person doesn't count, so I can hurt them. Oh, there's a reason that that my wants are the most important thing, that I'm the main character of the story. But what if you're not? And as an Irish woman, I am like very concerned with the ideas of empire. When that thing was going around, people would like think of the Roman Empire this many times a day. I was like, oh yeah, that seems about right. And I wanted my protagonist's favorite character to be a problematic character, because that's about looking to the dark part of yourself. And I called him the Emperor, because I was like, people will be like, the Emperor? Oh, he doesn't sound good. I'm like, he's not.
Yeah, there's good kings. There's rarely good emperors.
Exactly.
We're just in fiction. Usually, we're not waiting for the rightful emperor to come back.
Well, exactly. And so I had people in the story like, wouldn't it be great when the rightful emperor comes home? And that's meant to like make people's brains be a bit like, maybe not, because if you're writing a fantasy and you say when the king comes home, you think about
Everybody goes,
Arthur.
"Ah."
Yeah.
Or you think about Aragorn. As soon as you think about it.
Well, that actually is something that I'm so glad you mentioned Aragorn, because here's a fact about Aragorn. Do you know in Tolkien's first draft, Aragorn was called Trotter, and he was a hobbit with wooden legs. And I presume not the true king, although super good representation if he was. But like that's how the drafts change, that adaptations change, that stories are really fluid, that Shakespeare did not make up Romeo and Juliet is something that I'm often thinking about. The fact that the stories are water and books are bridges across the water.
But so you made obviously cast full of villains. And this book is in many ways a passionate defense of fictional villainy. Which is not like news. Like we've all been online enough, I hope, to have seen the "if evil, why hot" memes. We all know what we're doing here, and I appreciate that. So it's very popular, but it's also kind of scrutinized and condemned, particularly for women, particularly for young women. There's a lot of concern that impressionable young girls will fall for the wrong fictional men and get very bad ideas.
Become hysterical.
Find and become hysterical and have to take to the seaside.
Novels have overheated their minds.
And I think of this book as in some ways a reply to that discourse. What is your reply to that discourse?
I mean, I have to say, I at first was really glad we were talking that kind of thing, because I mean, there are so many problematic tropes that I like seeing called out, and I think we should. But it's also like if problems make stories, they're not about good things happening to people. So sometimes it's like, oh wait, is this a new way to silence women and silence them talking about stories and telling hugely problematic stories? Because George R. R. Martin has a lot of problems in his fiction, but people aren't ordering him in the same way. And people aren't as concerned that men are going to run off with Catwoman or some woman that reminds them of Catwoman. They're like, oh my God, you know, those poor teenage boys, if a woman walks by in a slightly vinyl outfit, they would just like,
she's a thief. You don't understand.
He's like, property is theft. And then he'll stop being a doctor. And he'll just be like, I'm sorry, I have to learn how to do computer crime to help my lady. We're going to steal all of the British Museum, but that's fine because it's stolen anyway. And you're like, I don't know, maybe he'll be happy. Leave him to it, this imaginary man I've created who's left it all for Catwoman. But I'm like, women are smarter than this. We don't want to be Nathaniel Hawthorne, who was like, oh, a pack of scribbling women and all the people who love it have taken over. But at the same time, obviously, you don't want to be like, and murder is fine. Although in fiction, it's not so bad. We were talking in the green room about the upending the pyramid of sins, where you're like, in real life, murder, very, very bad.
Widely agreed.
Indeed. But in fiction, kind of a fun thing to happen. And you're all aware it's entertainment. Whereas like the guy who's just a jerk and doesn't tip, you're like, that's not even a fun thing to happen. That's boring. We all know that guy. But we were talking about a team of villains, and I do really like people having really different morality in fiction. So I wanted a team of villains partly because like we all like that guy who's, you know, kind of one trope of villainy is another evil comes, so you have to team up with the previous villain, and then he kind of becomes your friend who just always suggests murder. And you're like, oh no, lol. Oh, you're such a scamp, Shady Harry. And I wanted that guy, but to be in a villain crowd. So someone's like, what if we just did a little scheme or a little theft? And someone's like, oh, or a murder. And I was like, people don't do that much. All the villains seem to agree in a lot of the villain teams that I was saying. They're like, that's right, we'll all blow up the moon.
Well, villains often come in a strict hierarchy.
You're right.
There's an arch villain, and then he has gremlins that do what, but this is a team. They actually, as soon as she gets there, she immediately unionizes the minor villains. So it's a quite socialist approach to villainy, I think.
That's what I'm thinking of. I mean, she does affectionately call one of them her minion, but that's actually really embarrassing later for reasons I can't go into. But yeah, it's playful. She uses that term affectionately, and I want it all to be playful because we're playing. That's what happens. I mean, I was saying I don't want the world to end, but if the world does end and I'm around a campfire, I'm like, remember Netflix, guys? Now there's only me.
We agreed there'd be an awkward survival period where like once people sort out kind of like food and shelter and stuff, if we survive that, I think we'd be quite well liked around the fire.
Like, and now as the shadows draw close, let me tell you the tale of 10,000 doors, or perhaps just 5.
I'm not going to be retelling my own. I'm going to be doing thinly veiled Star Wars.
My own is thinly veiled Star Wars. No, it isn't. Oh my God, don't tell the reloads. With love for them.
But so, I mean, it makes a lot of fun. Obviously, you're talking about fictional villainy. You're doing a lot of meta stuff, but you're also, I think, particularly by the second half of the book, really talking about what is actual villainy. You're very, very concerned with like not the trappings of evil, but what actually allows people to do harm to each other. And I think you are asking those same questions in other lands. What is your conclusion of what makes a real villain in this book?
I mean, what makes a real villain? By that, do you mean someone who's like hateable and evil?
No, not in a fun way. Like,
Oh.
who's the real bad guy?
I don't think there ever is one. I mean, I think there are evil forces. I think there are people who give way to evil. But I think that when there is an antagonist in Long of Evil, there is someone who emerges as the most hateful. But I think they're actually a fairly normal person who just made the wrong choices every step of the way, and that they probably in other circumstances would be someone really unremarkable, someone nice enough. But that is the people around us. Whereas like you have Elizabeth Bain in Starling House, and she seems like the personification of evil in an interesting way. Did you ever think
Yeah,
of
no,
that?
mine are just bad. When I have a villain, I'm like, yeah, they're awful. They're terrible. They're not complicated. They don't even have a cool backstory. They just decided it would be beneficial to them to do evil. I
So
think
it's sheer greed as
it's
they
greed often, and I think that's I plagiarized that from life.
entitlement is something I often think about
Yeah,
from life.
entitlement and is can lead to like true villainy, because it is, I think, one of the themes I've seen in your books is like that real villainy is failing to see others as people, right? And so that kind of allows anything, then anything can happen after you've
Performed that one terrible magic
one little
trick. Exactly.
Yeah, no, I write terrible villains. They're not interesting at all. I've never at any point in my drafting been like, but is she a little hot? No, it's never occurred to me.
I think the one element of the people who are ultimately going to be on the side that's not my main character side is that they would never think of themselves as the villain. Once you've thought of yourself as the villain, you become kind of interesting to me.
Well, and you've performed kind of an act of empathy, even in thinking of that. You're thinking about how others see you, and you're understanding your role in other people's stories. And if you never ever do that and you're automatically the protagonist, I mean, you've met people who automatically think they're the protagonist, they're the worst.
That's true. And like I have my protagonist be like, so we're villains, and most of the other characters are like, I'm not. I'm a supporting character who's someone in conflict. And they're like, yeah, that's the same thing. Or like, you're dead here, and that's just a villain with good PR. But one person just put up their hand and be like, yeah, I am. I'm evil. I kill people all the time. And everyone's like, seriously? But also that is already a person who is someone engaged with the fact that like other people don't like it when I kill people. I've noted that. Someone who thinks about how other people see them as someone who, again, yeah, has performed the radical act of empathy. And that's also anyone who's read a book is performing the radical act of empathy, which is why the true villains in this world don't read.
Before we go to audience questions, I need to ask about book 2. What's book 2? When can I have it?
Book 2 is with my editor, and thus is not on my plate. It's all her problem, baby. It was late because I was like, so there's a small problem with the book. And they were like, have you not written it? And I was like, no, that's never the problem. The problem is just that it's very, very long. Very, 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 very long. Like if you were to say write a short story in your blog and then someone to put it in it, like this has happened to me a bunch. And they were like, well, how long? And I was like, yeah, 700,000 words. I'll just cut it down. It's fine. It's fine. And they were like, oh, maybe it's 2 books. And I was like, oh, could it be? Thank God. They're like, so it's a trilogy. And I was like, yes, a lovely trilogy. Oh yes, thank God. And they're like, okay, can I have the second book? And I'm like, no, there's no ending. But I'll get it to you. I'll write you a lovely little ending, a cliffhanger. People love those, right? She doesn't have one though. You're fine. You're fine. The second book
She,
will.
an hour ago, said to me, "Yeah, people are complaining about the cliffhanger. I didn't think it was a cliffhanger."
No. Yeah, really. Oh, comfortable romantic ending. Just felt really happy with myself. Just lovely closure. Because again, I was like, well, it's not going to be published, but even if it is, no one will ever be fool enough to publish any sequel. So it has to just end on a beautiful note. And then everyone's like, cliffhanger. And I was like, what do you mean? My evil powers are beyond my own ken. And there's even more than that. But I'll tell you guys that in the signing line if you ask me, because it's a little bit of a spoiler. And so now, beautiful audience, who will ask the first question that receives a copy of Long Live Evil and Starling House? Oh, I see we have a lot of people with great taste and good questions. And that is why Alix is going to pick Will. Oh, Evil wins again.
All right, which of you has the nearest upcoming birthday?
Oh, she can do math.
When's your birthday? October 11th is pretty good.
Oh,
Can you
yeah.
beat that? Oh, can we beat September 14th? All right. I think you get to ask the first question.
If we could step into any portal into any fantasy world where we go, Alix is going to answer first.
I mean, I would never go to Narnia. Earthsea, probably. It just seems nice. It seems like she's thought through the mechanics of just like being a regular person in Earthsea. You know, like you wouldn't immediately die. You could just live on a goat farm for a while and just make your little living on the islands. It'd be nice.
Well, what if like suddenly you're in the tombs of Atron? Like,
I wouldn't go there. I wouldn't go there.
You can pick where you go. And that is why no power was getting me to step in anywhere. Oh, yes, if there's a door, I'll go to the door. I will open the door. I will look through, but I'm not stepping through. I would die. I'm a coward weasel. I know what is through there. I will absolutely try to capture a glimpse of, you know, something cool, maybe a dragon. I will have my phone out. I will put my phone in there. I will attempt to take my phone to Fantasyland. That is something that I've always
The question is, what gullible young protagonist are you finding to take your phone through?
But I realize that also that is by saying that I'm refusing the call, and thus I had to have to go to Fantasyland after all. Whereas what I love about you going to Earthsea is that you are in fact intercepting the call. You are stepping right into it, which is an act of beautiful villainy, and which is why I think you are going to end up running the tombs of Atuan. Okay. Great question. All right. Beautiful hair in the front. Are there going to be any different characters' perspectives in the sequel to Long Live Evil? Yes, I just wanted to check. You're like, Starling House, please let Alix answer. I was like, I don't know. That did feel like a beautiful conclusion to me. There are going to be other characters' points of view. I wrote a bonus content for a special edition, which is called, if anyone's read the book, they'll know whose point of view it's from, Letters to My Lady from the Abyss. And I have added, that was part of why the book went so long. I was like, I've just added twice as many characters' points of view. Everyone will enjoy that, right? And they're like, no one asked for this. But I really do love people realizing that everyone is like, two people see the universe the same way. So one of my new points of view is someone who is in their 40s and is like, I hate these people. Their romantic drama is ruining the running of the country. And this minstrel keeps performing and I don't care. So yes, the point of view that literally nobody asked for is perhaps my favorite, but I still have all the same points of view that I had before, and they're very reluctantly undergoing character growth. And some of them are even in a gothic manner.
Sarah, do you think Elliot would survive being dropped for Long Live Evil?
Do I think Elliot would survive being dropped into Long Live Evil? Yes, Elliot's very smart. As long as he made friends fast, because he is not a good fighter. And he would not also, if someone's like, here's in Long Live Evil, there's, because I was kind of thinking of like tricks to make people survive. It's like, oh, you can have weapons that enhance your strength. So if he wouldn't use one. So again, he would really have to make friends with them. But I think he and the Golden Cobra, who is like a playboy, playwright, fashionista, richest man in court, great deal of fun to write, that they would get on extremely well. So as soon as Elliot had made friends with the Cobra, he'd be fine. But if he mouthed off to the wrong person, showed up in the wrong part of town, that's the cauldron. Yeah, I mean, he could be stabbed very quickly. So, and like, hopefully he arrives somewhere close to someone who will make friends with him, which is the only way he survived in other lands. Let's be real. This man is annoying. I do know that. Thank you for a beautiful craft.
One, because are we ever going to see more of Elliot and
Well, I wrote a short story called Tears Waiting to be Diamonds, in which we have grown up Luke and Elliot, and also they're in a situation. They're having some troubles in their relation. And I was describing to my friend Holly, who was the one who put it in Other Lands into her Word document of evil, a sin I've still not forgiven her for. And I was describing, and I was like, so this is how the sequel goes. And she's like, so that's a trilogy? I was like, shut your face. I won't hear any more of this. So my UK editor, who was for Long Live Evil, said that she loves In Other Lands, and she's like, if Long Live Evil does well, perhaps we could see about playing In Other Lands in the sequels. And I was like, oh, do you know they're going to be sequels? She's like, are there not? So yes, there is a chance, but also you never know. I do know a lot of stuff that would happen for them, and some of it is awful.
So both of you have a lot of humor in your books and different styles of humor. And I think that you started to mention some of your touch points for where that comedy voice comes from. But I was just curious if you could talk a little bit more about how you approach writing that kind of humor, style of humor in both of them.
How do we approach writing our styles of humor in both of our books? I would be really interested to hear your comic touchdown. I really am surprised that you know that you're funny. So many people don't.
No, I think my experience of publishing has been like, this is very funny, right? I was having a good time, and people are like, I cried. It was a pretty solid setup though. No, I have that wonderful thing, which is a mom who is an English major. And so I have second generation sci-fi and fantasy. So there's all of the, Lois McMaster Bujold was
God,
huge in my house.
The Miles book.
So funny.
So
Is so funny. And actually a lot of her humor, I think you can follow it back to like a kind of a novel of manners sort of style of humor. And I also read a ton of 19th century, largely British literature. And it has that particular, like, not necessarily the setup and punchline kind of joke, but the situations themselves are often humorous. And there's a sort of underlying like absurdity or wryness that I like.
Which writers?
I mean, higher,
Yes.
obviously.
Well, Bujold's civil campaign is basically hair
It
and
is.
space.
It is.
Which is why it's so great. If anyone hasn't read the Miles books, get on it.
Miles for Kosigan by Lois McMaster Bujold. There's a billion of them, so you'll be busy for a while, and they're very, very funny and wonderful.
Yes. I'm gonna do like a tiny little cell for Miles. Okay, so we start off, and here's Miles, and he is he's in space Sparta, and he's going through he's about to do the last things for the military academy, and he's like, way down there, and the strapping fellows are like, how are you going to enter military academy? And he's like, by getting a perfect word score. And then you're like, oh, I can't wait to see this plucky underdog's time in military space academy. And then he jumps over something he shouldn't have jumped over and breaks both his legs and has to go to Orgy Planet where his grandparents live, and it gets on a bunch of drugs and becomes a pirate. And then the guy who was stealing a spaceship, and he wake up together and the guy's like, I can't believe we became pirates. I bet you're regretting everything. He's like, no, I've made only good decisions. In fact, I might become the Admiral of Space. And that's like 4 chapters in. That is a character of all time. You will enjoy them.
That's true. I would never have pitched it that way, but that is all on the page true. Your humor comes from Pratchett and Diana Wynne Jones.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely. But also, yeah, Miles, and also, yeah, like Anthony Trollope. He'd be like, oh, look, I learned pacing from him, which is why my pacing is always a problem. And he'd be like, oh, no, don't be worried. Obviously, my heroine's going to marry the right guy in the end. Now, let's get back to the shenanigans in the shrubbery. And I'm like, woohoo, shenanigans in the shrubbery. And everyone else is like, why have you read everything?
I think Austen is underrated as like how funny and like a little mean, like caustically funny
So
she
mean.
is.
Apparently, in all her letters, she actually was unleashed mean, and they were burned so people wouldn't think ill of her. And I was like, I want those letters. I want the tea. But yes, I read Pride and Prejudice first when I was 7, and I was just laughing away. I didn't understand it, but I knew it was funny. And also, have you seen the movie Fire Island?
Yes, that's one of the best adaptations
Agreed.
that I have seen.
Part of it is because they understand that Darcy and Elizabeth the whole time. I understood what I read it. Like, we've all read stories in which the main character is just, you're like, this is banter. No, they just don't like each other and they're being kind of mean. But without saying, because she's Jane Austen, she couldn't. You were like, these people are kind of attracted to each other. You could tell by the way they're talking to each other, the way they're both like, serve, serve, serve.
Yeah.
They have the same, they're able to talk to each other in that way. And so when I was watching Fire Island and we see their thoughts, and he's like, God, he's so annoying. Oh, I'm turned on now. And I was like, yes, you got it. And or the moment where he's like, Darcy's like, that's right, I'm putting it away and not into the recycling, though it should be. And then Elizabeth guy goes away and he's like, oh my God, into the recycling it goes. You're like, you got Darcy. I mean, we've never seen Darcy do that in the book because, the recycling was not an issue in Nelson's time. But that is the character. That's the truth of the character. And that is something that I think that we're both interested in seeking. What's the truth of a character? Who are they through the changing story?
It is often very funny.
Yeah, it is, because people are funny.
Who is your favorite villain or evil character in books?
Oh, in all the books in all of time? Well, that's so many books. I'm gonna go with the big one. Lucifer in Paradise Lost. He is great. He's a classic. And he's like, when he's like, better to reign in hell than serve in heaven. You're like, well, serving is like a tricky concept. Do you have to serve to be good?
No, I've got nothing. I have no one. I don't know.
A villain that you like, any villain.
I mean, I do. But the last time I said it online, I got in trouble.
Oh.
Because, like, I just want to be clear with you all that I do not identify with the Raylo community. But I think they have a point. Like, I see it. I get it.
That scene in the throne room, it was a good scene. It was a great scene.
At any point, if 2 people spin back to back to fight, I think that I am on board.
I fully went in there being like, can't wait to see John Boyega kiss this lady. Oh. And like, I can never wait to see John Boyega kiss a lady. It's always a good time. Please do it more, John Boyega. But like, sure, yeah, I'm not immune to throne rooms. And also, when people are like, oh, you like this thing, so you're a bad person. No, you can just like whatever you want. It does not make you a bad person. And but like, also stop arguing with people about whether you're a bad person. It's much, much easier. I've found it a lot easier in my villain era to just be like, yes, I am a bad person. Next. All the way in the back.
Still for Austen-esque dialogue and banter, something across obviously also in the fence books are so good. I think you do such an amazing job of like getting everyone's fantasy slightly different. Like I think the fence have safety all the time and so wonderful and perfect. And I'm just wondering how you built out so many different voices that you still keep the like how do you I mean, I guess it was 400,000
I was like, oh wow, the page really tight. I was like, oh dear. Thank you so much. Process of mastering dialogue and also pacing. I never think about pacing. It has to be brutally done to me afterwards. And they're like, well, Sarah, I just don't know about that 30 pages of making jokes about cereal. And I'm like, you didn't like them? And they were like, they were fine, but that's too many. And I'm like, I don't know. I think it's a good time. They're like, no. So get good critique partners is one advice. I'm really glad you're right. The fence books are tie-in with C.S. Pacat and Joanna Abad's graphic novels. They were really fun to write, and I love C.S. Pacat as a writer. So when you really respect someone, going into their world is an honor, but it's also like you want to talk with them and make sure they're doing it right. And you're like, is this in character? Is this in character? Okay, now I've got them. But I also am like, when you think about your characters as real people, when you know the story behind them, or someone else's characters, same thing, like their humor is going to come out different just because everybody finds different things funny. Everybody sees a different color red. So it would be a betrayal. And like sometimes you do think of it like, oh, this is such a good joke, but there's only this one person here to say it and they would never say it. No, my joke. So yeah, you have to separate your jokes. And honestly, also like sometimes I see online people will like quote like jokes that work perfectly outside of the situation. I wish I could do that more. They're so fun, those jokes, but most of my humor is pretty situational. And everyone's like, this is really funny if I explain like a chapter. You know, like no one's got time for that. But thank you. What do we answer like really rapid fire? We can answer you both.
I know some authors don't like it, but have you fan casted who are some of the big fan
Okay. Have you ever fan casted?
I do.
I don't really do it.
I'm just haunted by having read an interview with Tamora Pierce, and the wild magic books were very important to me. And I don't know if you know this, but she once said that Numair, the hot wizard teacher, would be Jeff Goldblum.
Oh,
And having said that, it's just sort of, I
Jurassic
don't want to
Park,
ever
Jeff
do that.
Goldblum. Yeah, I'm actually in.
As the older I get, the more in I am. But as a young person, I was like, no.
What? Maybe Olivia Rodrigo for Ray, someone who could sing. I have for the Emperor, I've had a lot of people tell me their cast, and it's always the character that they're currently really into. Like they've said some people that I was like, oh, I would never have thought of that, but I see you really like them, and I like that for you. So I'm like, yes, whoever you're thinking of for the Emperor, that's who it should be. So goes out to you. Yeah. I mean, again, Jurassic Park, Jeff Goldblum. He could certainly have stolen me away and carried me off on a dinosaur. That's all I'm saying.
How do you keep track of the changes and the characters?
Well, I've just realized that it's going to be a picture book. What's the process for keeping track of changes? How do you do it? Someone needs to tell me how to do it.
I mean, I don't know. I have a big Scrivener document and then a huge and beautiful and perfect outline that has everything and that I ignore completely.
Right.
Does nothing for me.
I once had a character's eyes change color from book 1 to book 2 because I did not have like a beautiful Scrivener document. And then in book 3, I completely swizzed everything by being like, they're greenish blue eyes. So the answer is just, you could try to keep track of things, but also you're going to make mistakes. It's just going to happen. I'm never going to give any character a birthday. Oh my God, I will forget it. And everyone will be like, let's celebrate. And I'm like, what? Or they'll be like, the star sign's wrong. I'm like, God, you're right. So just try and be comfortable with making terrible, terrible errors. And also, if you see someone making an error and they haven't yet written the final book, alert them so that they can do the greenish blue eyes thing. Oh, thank you guys so much for your beautiful questions. If you have any more, please contact me. Oh, and I have a question. Can I take a picture with all of you guys? Panoramic shot.
You did a video.
Okay, a video. That's a good idea. Okay, thank you, beautiful. That was everything you said, as I always do. Okay, yeah. Okay. All right, okay. You got it.
All right. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. And thank you to our authors for such a wonderful conversation. We are now going to transition to our signing line. So if you would like to purchase a copy of Long Live Evil, you can do so upstairs before joining the signing line. Again, we would really appreciate it. If you are willing and able to fold up your chair and set it to the side so a staff member can collect them, we would greatly appreciate that. Thank you all for coming out tonight. We are going to be, hold on real quick. We're going to be setting up the signing line over down by our cooking section. So if you could start lining up by games and then going this way.
Oh, I need to, yes, get my pen, but also I need to buy a copy of Long View and